Hello and welcome to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today, a quick wee update on Celtic news. Not an awful lot of Celtic news, to be thoroughly honest, today as things stand. Wednesday, middle of the day, around 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon. However, there are a couple of nice wee stories that are good news in a time when there's not an awful lot of good news swirling around the club with various different issues regarding the board, Rodgers, Lee Labada, and a few of our players not really settling into Scottish football just yet. However, some good news. One of the successes of this season, Liam Scales, who had Brendan Rodgers had his way at the start of the season, would have been playing for Aberdeen at the moment. However, a bit of bad luck with injuries and CCV's slow recovery from his summer knee surgery meant that Scales was retained. Then with injuries to Welsh and Novrocky, along with CCV's recurring problems, means that Scales has been a regular in Celtic's back four pretty much ever since the start of the season. His contract is due up May the 31st, 2025, and so still has about 15 months to run. However, it would make very good business sense to sign him up again for another 3 or 4 years. He's currently 25, and so a 3 or a 4 year contract would be very sensible, especially as he does give that option of left back, also can push forward into midfield, as well as the position he seems to be holding that down very successfully at the moment at left-sided centre back. Sorry, mixing up my football and my American football metaphors. Liam Scales is one of Celtic's lower paid first team squad players, according to Salary Sport, who seem to have a pretty accurate inside track. Scales is the second lowest paid member of Celtic's usual first team squad, on 5,000 per week, with Odin Thiago Home just below him on 4,800, with Barnaby at 5,500, Paulo Bernardo 5,800 per week, and slightly surprisingly, alongside Yang, Luis Palma is on 6,000 per week. I think I would have expected Palma to be on a higher weekly wage than that, given that he is that wee bit older. He was an established Honduran international with a few good years in Honduran and Greek football before he came to us. However, he is towards the bottom of the Celtic salary league table at the moment. I could certainly see Celtic doubling Liam Scales' weekly wages, bringing him into the middle of the wage earners in the squad. And I think Scales would be very keen to have that certainty and security for the next few years in the team. The other player that is in active contract renegotiations is Rocco Vata. He is at the end of his contract at the end of this season. His contract needs to be upgraded from the youth team, under 18 team style contract into the full first team squad contract. And similar to a couple of his fellow under 18 B team players, all of whom signed their extension deals for 3 years in the summer of 2023. Rocavata was offered a contract at that time, which it then appears Brendan Rodgers decided to tear up when Vata was not keen on signing the contract at that time. However, it does appear that the interest in Vata in the summer and winter transfer windows from Italy, plus his successful game against Bucky Thistle, coming on to score his first Celtic first team goal at that time, has rekindled Rodgers' enthusiasm to get Vata signed up. It does appear that the 4-year contract and the amount of money per week he's being offered is acceptable to Vata and his agent. However, the stumbling block is what level of first team and squad appearances will Vata have over the next few years. Celtic are currently quite keen to sign players of Vata's age, 18, 19, 20, away for a year or two on loan to get weekly first team football that they will not get at Celtic. I think at this stage, Vata probably is not really good enough to be in the first team squad every week. However, he would give us an additional UEFA quota option. In the long run, if he stays at the club for the duration of that 4 years, and that is always a handy additional qualification for him. I honestly do think he is a potential Celtic first team player of the future. I think he needs a year or two just to fully mature into that. But I think going forward in future seasons, he very much will be a good Celtic player. And if he progresses, as can often be the case with players who are 18, 19, 20, he could be an actually great player for Celtic if he gets that wee bit bigger, a wee bit stronger, a wee bit faster, and also learns his trade both through the middle and out wide under the coaching of Rodgers. Other wee interesting conundrum Celtic have at the moment is that 2 of our 3 goalkeepers will be out of contract on the 31st of May of this year. Both Joe Hart and Scott Bain's contracts are up at the end of this season. There were stories last year that Scott Bain had signed an extension, but that does not appear to be the case, and both Bain and Hart have just a few more months left on their contracts. I popped a wee question in the community section as to whether we as a channel think we should give Hart another contract for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or simply say at the end of May of this year. Thanks very much, Joe. You've been a great servant for the club, but we're going to let you go. I think if both Bain and Hart were leaving the club, that does allow Celtic to get a fresh pair of goalkeepers in. There are quite a few out of contract, very good, top quality international goalkeepers out there. Also a few, again, very high, top quality international goalkeepers whose contracts will be up in the summer of 2025, and so many clubs at that point start to look to move that goalkeeper on. A good example of that is Angus Gunn of Norwich, who may well be looking to come back to Scotland for a chance to win trophies, play in Europe, and nail down his place as Scottish international goalkeeper number 1. So would be very interesting to see. I personally do think that Joe Hart is worth a 1-year extension, maybe as a backup goalkeeper, easing in the way for the new, younger, long-term option for Celtic. Joe Hart's form in the last few weeks has really, for me, stepped up a large amount. He's also been a much better leader of the defence and has been taking control of his 6-yard box much better. And so I further year of Joe Hart as in the squad would be a very good option, and would be a very reliable player to step in if the new number one was struggling to adapt to Scotland or adapt to the pressures of being Celtic's number one goalkeeper. One last wee thing to update, the poll that we had over the last week regarding our own rating of Brendan Rodgers is now over. After 1 week, the collected responses of the channel were that 6% of us thought that Rodgers was excellent stroke elite, 10% thought he was great, 36% good, 28% average, and 19% poor. I think that pretty much reflects what the majority of the Celtic fans think about Brendan Rodgers. I think there are a few people who do honestly think he is that top level manager. I'm very skeptical of that, and I think he does probably lie in the good or average level. But a lot of his performances this year haven't been up to £3 million a year, and I think he maybe in the last week or two has been deciding he needs to change his ways, change his rather concrete thinking about things. I did actually personally like the flexibility of Kyogo behind Ida against St Mirren. I think that's a tactic that will work against many of these ultra defensive teams. I thought also the defensive setup, which provided a bit more cover for Barnaby at left back. I thought that was quite useful. McGregor was coming back into that zone quite often. Scales was pushing more over towards the left side to cover behind Barnaby when he went forward. Also, Welsh and Scales much less went up the pitch if Barnaby was pushing forward into the final third. So it did look a wee bit more defensively sound with Barnaby at left back. However, hopefully Greg Taylor should be back for the game against Kilmarnock at the weekend, which, if we've any luck, will still be on top of the table, as our big rivals would need a 3-0 win tonight against Ross County to leapfrog us on goal difference in the league. So that just about finishes things off for today's wee news update. Remember that there are the online poll regarding Joe Hart's future, trivia question, which today is also themed on Joe Hart. There's also a couple of wee new short videos, which a few people have found quite entertaining. For those new to the channel who've enjoyed this video and have had a wee look at the other videos on the channel, please do click that subscribe button and just get the subscriber numbers going back up again, which always cheers me up no end. Do feel free to pass on the details of the channel to friends, family, colleagues, people that you know who might be interested in a slightly alternative Celtic news site. And as always, there's the like button, which does help with YouTube algorithms, and again, comment section always open for pleasant, polite debate, discussions, etc. on this video and general Celtic issues and news. So for today, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, goodbye, and hail, hail.